What happens aback? Donald Trump interrupts Barack Obama's animate Boondocks anteroom, abandoned to be silenced by one book that the complete nation can't stop replaying. The admirers didn't apperceive what hit them. It was meant to be a calm Tuesday Black Boondocks anteroom in Phoenix, Arizona. Barack Obama sat beneath the ablaze flat lights, his anorak unbuttoned, tie abandoned, aloof, abundant to actualization affluence, afterwards accident composure. He was speaking about the backbone of capitalism. Aback, the moderator's earpiece aback crackled. The air shifted. "Mr. President," the adjudicator stammered, casual at the camera. "We've aloof been abreast that Admiral Trump is calling in." Gasps bouncing through the crowd. This wasn't planned. No one accepted a sitting admiral to arrest his predecessor's animate event, abnormally on civic television. The ascendancy allowance panicked. Producers coiled aimlessly abaft the glass. The adjudicator looked abashed, as if told the architecture was on fire. Obama didn't flinch. He leaned back in his chair, one duke on the armrest, the added comatose agilely on his chin, calm, alike amused. "Put him through," Obama said, his emphasis advised and composed. The aforementioned emphasis bodies had absent aback 2016. The awning aloft, the date flickered to life. Trump's face appeared via BuzzFeed, his articulation booming through the speakers. "Barack, I had to alarm in," Trump began. "I'm watching this, and it's a disgrace. A complete disgrace. You're talking about capitalism aback beneath your administration. Jobs were dematerialization everywhere. Beneath me, we had the best abridgment in history. Bodies that perceive it, anybody knows it. Nobody's anytime apparent annihilation like it. Some in the admirers confused uncomfortably. Others murmured. This was added then a surprise. It was a fray of two eras, accident animate and unfiltered. Obama didn't acknowledge immediately. He affronted hardly to the crowd, absolution the blackout linger. Then, in an airy voice, he said, "Well, looks like we've got aggregation tonight." Laughter bankrupt out, abatement the tension, but abandoned for a moment. Anybody sensed what was advancing next. An ad-lib showdown that could go viral in seconds. Trump, analysis momentum, apprenticed harder. Bodies bethink how bad it was afore me. Terrible. Manufacturing was dying. China was bistro us alive. I came in and anchored it. The numbers don't lie. If it weren't for me, this country would be in ruins. And now you're sitting actuality assuming you did article good. You didn't, Barack. Bodies that perceive the truth. His words were unpolished but forceful, meant to dominate, not to persuade. And they agitated weight. Afterwards all, he was still the sitting president. His name on every headline, his face on every channel, but the admirers wasn't attractive at the awning anymore. Their absorption had confused aback to Obama. They basic to see how he'd respond. Would he booty the bait? Would he get angry? Or would he break composed? Obama leaned, advanced slightly, bound his hands, and looked anon into the camera. He didn't accession his voice. He didn't rush. He battened with the calm attention of addition who had faced action afore and accepted the ability of patience. "Mr. President," Obama began, pausing aloof, connected, abundant for the words to land. "I anticipate the American body's affliction beneath about who shouts the loudest and added about who absolutely tells them the truth." Applause erupted. The adjudicator confused in his seat, bisected relieved, bisected anxious. The action was no best hypothetical. It was accident appropriate and advanced of them. Trump's articulation cut aback in louder than before, but article had already changed. Obama's acknowledgement wasn't aloof able because of what he said. It was because of how he said it. The tone, the control, the poise. Viewers could feel the adverse instantly. One man loud and agitated, the added calm and steady. The moment belonged to Obama, but that was abandoned the beginning. What followed would about face a political barter into one of the best replayed animate television moments in contempo memory. Afterwards that night, central the East Wing, the walls seemed to authority their breath. Aides confused quietly, alienated eye contact, anticipating the advancing storm. Aback the aperture to the Aboriginal lady's clandestine appointment shut, the complete was aciculate abundant to accomplish a Secret Service a better glance over. Anybody knew what was about to happen. Melania sat abaft a able amber desk, a bottle of baptized bright beside her. In advance of her lay a leaked DNA report, the pages hardly angled from how deeply she was arresting them. Her calmly trembled, not from fear but from anger. For years she had able the art of restraint, befitting her affections hidden from accessible view. But this was different. This was about Barron. "I will not let them abort my son," she said sharply, her emphasis acid through the silence. "Do you understand? I don't affliction what it takes." Beyond from her, two admiral exchanged abashed glances. Raymond Hall, a acclimatized strategist, austere his throat. "First Lady, we can administer this. Rumors and leaks arise all the time. What affairs is accepting advanced of it afore what?" she snapped, slamming her duke on the desk. The answer abounding the room. "Afore every cardboard in the country prints lies about my family, afore my son becomes a target." Her articulation cracked. Allotment fury, allotment fear, the allowance went still. Alike Hall, who had apparent endless crises, was at a loss. This wasn't aloof backroom anymore. It was personal. It was about legacy, family, and identity. Things no columnist account could fix. Melania stood abruptly, her armchair awkward adjoin the wall. She began pacing, heels arresting the marble attic in a siculate rhythm. "I gave aggregate for this role." She decrepit mostly to herself. "I protected. I backward silent. I smiled a back I basic to scream. And this is how they accord me?" One of her aides, a adolescent woman, declared Charlotte Winslow, batten carefully. "Ma'am, we're not abiding who leaked it yet, but if we can trace it, acquisition them." Melania cut in coldly. "I don't affliction how. I appetite to apperceive who betrayed me." Her emphasis was low but absolute. The appeal beatifica arctic through the room. Charlotte scribbled notes, her calmly abashed afore agilely abrogation to accomplish calls. That larboard Hall, who knew bigger than to claiming her in this state. Still, his job was to advise. "We accept options," he said cautiously. "We can discredit the report. Alarm it fabricated, tie it to political enemies, or we can break quiet, let it fade." Melania gave an absinthian laugh. "Fade? Annihilation fades in Washington. Aggregate becomes permanent. They'll use this to abort him and me." For a moment, her acrimony softened. She looked fragile, eyes glassy, calmly arresting the back of the chair. But afresh she straightened, her accord abiding like armor. "Prepare statements," she ordered. "But no one releases a distinct chat until I accept it. Not one book leaves this office." Anteroom nodded, but he knew what she didn't. Clandestineness never lasts in Washington. The tighter you authority it, the faster it leaks. And somewhere, Edition already had copies of the report. That night, the White House agents would afterwards an amnestis audition the complete of bottle ballyhoo from the clandestine residence, a boutonniere conceivably befuddled in anger. No one asked. No one bared to. Anybody in Washington knew it. The Aboriginal adult had beyond a line. She was accepted for her composure, for rarely assuming affect in public. But this time was different. As whispers advance through the corridors of power, aides agilely aggregate what they'd seen. "She's furious," one said over the buzz to an aide in the Eisenhower Executive Appointment Building. "I've never apparent her like this. If anyone thinks she'll break silent, they're wrong." Those murmurs became allotment of the adventure themselves, fueling the anecdotal alike further. It was no best aloof about the DNA report. It was about Melania's reaction. Affidavit that the aperture had hit far added than anyone imagined. But acrimony abandoned couldn't accommodate a scandal. Abnormally a back edition abroad in Washington was already advancing to booty it public. The abutting morning, the atmosphere in the basic acquainted heavier. An anniversary slipped agilely bottomward Pennsylvania Avenue, not for a ceremony, but for a alert affair central a law appointment tucked amid coffee shops downtown. Inside, there were no flags, no speeches, aloof lawyers, crisis managers, and political strategists aggregate for one purpose, to coffin the DNA leak. At the arch of the table sat Raymond Hall, Melania's best trusted advisor, belted by two attorneys from a close accepted for managing political crises out of sight. On the able appointment table lay the binder absolute the leaked report. No one battened at first. They aloof stared at it as if it were an animate explosive. "We've got two options," one advocate said finally. "Discredit or distract. We can alarm it fabricated. Link it to political opponents. Advance it apply advance adjoin the Aboriginal lady." Or what?" Anteroom interrupted, his emphasis sharp. "Or," the advocate continued, straightening his tie, "we coffin it beneath article bigger. Edition story, edition controversy. Washington moves on bound aback. There's article new to chase." Anteroom rubbed his temple. He knew the tactic. Distractions worked, but timing was everything. Move to anon and it looked staged. Delay too connected and the aperture could ambit out of control. And blind over aggregate was Melania herself. Angry, humiliated, and ambitious complete eraser of the story. Aback at the White House, Charlotte Winslow alternate with adverse updates. She had spent hours calling contacts, archetype every accessible lead. Some a secular to an antecedent in the medical community, others doubtable a staffer with admission to clandestine records. But every aisle assured the aforementioned way. Addition basic this advice out, and they had covered their tracks. Well, Melania paced the residence, buzz apprenticed to her ear as anteroom abreast her from downtown. "They're cogent me, we can coffin it," he said carefully. "But it'll booty time and resources." "Time we don't have," Melania snapped. "Half the burgle already knows. If Jasmine Crockett gets her calmly on this—" She stopped, bitter aback the rest. Aloof the apprehension of the abrupt congresswoman wielding such advantage fabricated her beating quicken. Charlotte entered the room, block in hand. "Ma'am, there's already babble online. Small accounts for now, but bodies are starting to ask questions." Melania's announcement hardened. "Shut it down." "How?" Charlotte asked quietly. "Alarm platforms, alarm editors, alarm whoever you must. I don't affliction if it takes threats or favors. No one repeats this." The allowance went silent. Alike by Washington standards, this was extreme. Controlling a anecdotal was one thing. Silencing and complete burgle was another. Afterwards that evening, Anteroom reconvened the crisis team. They ran through every accessible scenario. Fake leaks to addle the waters, alert payments to reporters, burden on amusing media companies to banderole the adventure as misinformation. Each abstraction agitated risk. One advisor leaned advanced and batten in a low alert voice. "The absolute crisis isn't the address itself. It's the response. If bodies see how atrocious the Aboriginal adult is to adumbrate this, they'll accept the worst. She needs to accessory calm, composed, aloft it all. Not angry, not panicked." Anteroom exhaled slowly. "Easier said than done," he muttered. Meanwhile, chat of Melania's acerbity advanced faster than the aperture itself. White House staffers talked. Reporters listened. The byword atomic access began actualization in clandestine texts amid journalists, all cat and mouse for addition adventurous abundant to book it. In Dallas, Texas anchorman Lyle Morgan sat at his desk, staring at an email from a trusted source. Attached was a scanned archetype of what appeared to be the DNA report. He wasn't the abandoned one who had it, but he was amid the few accommodating to verify it afore publishing. He fabricated a alarm to a aldermanic staffer he trusted. "Have you heard what's accident in the East Wing?" he asked. The acknowledgement was brief. "She's panicking. If you've got something, run it." Morgan leaned back, bent amid attention and ambition. If he published, the adventure would boss a count nationwide. If he hesitated, addition abroad would beat him to it. While Morgan debated, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett was already watching developments anxiously from her Dallas office. She battened with her aides, eyes absorption as she apprehended through forwarded emails and Aboriginal reports. "This isn't aloof about an ancestors matter," she said calmly. "It's about transparency, about what they adumbrate and why." Her aggregation exchanged quick glances. They accustomed that tone. Crockett had begun her opening, but before she could act, Melania's aggregation was advancing a counter-narrative that would analysis aloof how abundant ascendancy the Aboriginal adult absolutely had. Crockett wasn't one to edge about controversy. She had congenital her acceptability on edgeless bluntness and assured confrontation. So a back chat of Barron's DNA aperture accomplished her desk. She didn't aloof booty note. She leaned in. Her agents aggregate central a bashful appointment allowance in Dallas. Laptops were open, coffee cups broadcast beyond the table, and a whiteboard abounding with names, arrows, and dates. The affectionate of bureaucracy that looked added like a political analysis than an accepted meeting. Jasmine stood at the front, calmly on her hips, her announcement focused. "All right," she began, her articulation abiding but sharp. "Tell me what we absolutely know. Skip the noise, aloof the facts. Her aide, Marcus Bellamy, tall, analytical, and quick with research, switched to the Aboriginal Accelerate on the projector. The certificate Aboriginal appeared in a defended email alternation amid medical staffers. Addition forwarded it, but we can't affirm who. Afterwards it advanced quickly. At Atomic, 3 reporters accept copies, but none accept published. Why? Jasmine asked. They're scared, Marcus replied. If they go public, the Aboriginal ladies' acknowledged aggregation will bang a back hard. It's easier for them to break quiet. Jasmine gave a bound smirk. Scared? That's not journalism. That's baby-minding power. A few aides chuckled uneasily. They knew this tone. A back Jasmine batten like that, she meant business. Audition staffer, Lena Ortiz, chimed in. We're audition letters that Melania has been furious, babble at staff, authoritative threats. Some are calling it her affliction breakdown aback entering the White House. Jasmine aloft an eyebrow. Volatile isn't a headline, it's a symptom. If she's reacting like that, it agency this aperture hits added than they appetite anyone to see. She leaned afterpiece to the table, her articulation lower. And if it's that personal, they'll do annihilation to abolish it. Which agency it's our job to accomplish abiding it doesn't disappear. The aggregation exchanged quick glances. They already knew area this was headed. Jasmine Crockett wasn't one to bend by and watch. She best up her buzz and dialed a number. An announcer she trusted answered, his emphasis cautious. Congresswoman, I heard you're attractive into the DNA story. You heard right, she said, pacing as she spoke. Tell me what you know. Off the record, the announcer hesitated. I've apparent the document, but I haven't published. It's too risky. Chancy for who? Jasmine pressed. You? Your paper? Or the truth? Silence. A fresh sigh. The Aboriginal ladies' aggregation is already circling. They'll abort anyone who touches this. A fresh let them try, Jasmine said evenly. I don't alarm easily. She assured the alarm and affronted a back to her team. Here's the plan. We don't go afterwards, Barron. He's off limits. The adventure isn't about him. It's about her. The secrecy, the owning up, and how far they'll go to assure an angel while silencing anybody else. Marcus nodded. So, you're advancing an accessible statement? Not a loofah statement, Jasmine replied, her emphasis. Charged. We're ambiance the narrative. We'll elocution about what happens, a backability hides abaft walls. The accuracy doesn't accord to them. It belongs to the people. That night, Jasmine drafted her remarks. Short, direct, absurd to ignore. The abutting morning, continuing al fresco her Dallas appointment with microphones awash about her, she delivered them calmly and clearly. Seeker is the bill of the powerful, she began. When abstracts aperture or bodies allege out, that's not chaos. That's capitalism at work. And to back those at the top blitz to coffin the truth, the absolute catechism is, what are they abashed of us knowing? Reporters leaned forward, recording every word. She never mentioned Barron or Melania by name, but her bulletin was unmistakable. An announcer declared out, Congresswoman Crockett, are you adage the Aboriginal adult is ambuscade something? Jasmine met his gaze. I'm adage this. If the accuracy makes addition uncomfortable, that's their problem, not the people's. Within hours, the blow went viral. Hashtags about clandestineness and accuracy surged online. Cable networks replayed her words, debating whether she'd be on demand or artlessly told the truth. Meanwhile, central the East Wing, Melania's aggregation accolade to ascendancy the fallout. Hull declared an emergency meeting, his face anemic as he showed Melania the video clip. She's careful, but she's aiming anon at us. She's accessed this into a moral argument, he said. Melania's jaw tightened. Then we action a back harder. But Jasmine wasn't aloof speaking. She was advancing to actualization evidence, the affectionate that would accomplish blackout impossible. That morning, the air central the Rayburn House appointment architecture agitated abnormal tension. Cameras lined the corridors, reporters competed for position, and staffers aside in anticipation. Anybody sensed that article cogent was about to unfold. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett was set to allege at a subcommittee hearing, but it was bright this wouldn't be an accustomed session. Jasmine entered the alcove with her accepted calm stride, affidavit in hand, her announcement steady. There were no theatrics and abandoned focus. Every eye followed her, alive she wasn't aloof accessory a hearing. She was about to adapt the chat in Washington. Beyond the city, Melania's aggregation watched from screens at the White House Communications Office. Anteroom leaned forward, diaphoresis basic at his temple. If she brings this up directly, we're in trouble, he muttered. Melania sat rigid, accoutrements crossed, eyes anchored on the screen. She had been told Jasmine wouldn't acknowledgment Barron by name. That was the red line, but they all knew she didn't accept to. The audition began with accepted formalities, but the atmosphere confused already. Jasmine took the microphone. She adapted it calmly, scanning the allowance afore speaking. America doesn't aloof run on laws, she began evenly. It runs on trust. And to back those in ability alpha alleviative accuracy as optional, that assurance erotus a little added every day. Her words cut through the silence. Committee associates shifted. Reporters leaned forward, pens ready. Jasmine continued, her emphasis sharpening. Time and again, we've apparent leaders appeal loyalty, appeal silence, and apprehend us to accessory abroad aback accuracy becomes inconvenient. But capitalism can't action aback clandestineness becomes accepted practice. The American bodies deserve better, a agent interrupted. Congresswoman Crockett, we're actuality today to altercate accuracy in government contracts. Exactly, Jasmine replied, affair his eyes. Accuracy is the issue. Whether it's about contracts, classified material, or clandestine letters hidden to assure political families. The arrangement is consistently the same. Awning it up, blackout dissent, and achievement no one asks questions. The allowance abounding with murmurs. Anybody accepted what she was implying. She had a secular anon against the White House afterwards allotment names. Cameras zoomed in as Jasmine captivated up a document. Not the DNA report, but a timeline of communications assuming how fast the Aboriginal lady's appointment had approved to abolish the leak. Within 48 hours of this address circulating, she said, bore the paper. Calls were fabricated to media outlets, editors were pressured, and platforms were apprenticed to blackout discussion. If this address was absurd or false, why blitz to coffin it? Gasps bouncing through the room. It was no best about Barron. It was about ability and control. A anchorman declared out, breaking decorum. Congresswoman, are you accusing the Aboriginal adult of application her position to abolish information? Jasmine didn't hesitate. I'm adage this. Accuracy doesn't charge aegis if it can bend on its own. If it's real, let the bodies see it. At the White House, Melania's anchor clenched. She's based this, she said coldly. Anteroom approved to abiding her. She's framing it as transparency, not family. If we attack, we accessory defensive. Melania befuddled her head. If we break silent, we accessory weak. Aback in the hearing, Jasmine concluded. Her emphasis ashen but agitated weight. Families should be off limits. But aback clandestineness becomes an absorber for power. Aback acrimony replaces accountability. We all lose. This isn't about one household. It's about every ancestors that deserves bluntness from their leaders. The allowance erupted in noise. Reporters accursed questions. Committee associates aside intensely. By nightfall, the blow was everywhere. Jasmine agilely aggregate her affidavit and exited. Abrogation abaft a storm she had crafted with precision. She hadn't bare the DNA report. She had fabricated Melania's acknowledgement the absolute story. By evening, Jasmine's words bedeviled the airwaves. The line, the accuracy doesn't charge bodyguards, circling beyond CNN, MSNBC, and YouTube thumbnails. At the Civic Columnist Club, journalists debated how bound the adventure had escalated. Many accepted they'd abhorred the DNA angle. It acquainted too sensitive. But Jasmine had reframed the narrative. She hadn't apparent Barron. She'd apparent the Aboriginal lady's response, and that fabricated it printable. Beyond the country, in diners and homes, bodies were watching. A woman in Indiana befuddled her arch at the TV. She's right. If it's nothing, why is the Aboriginal adult so angry? A man adjacent muttered, because they're consistently ambuscade something. The accessible affection was shifting. It wasn't about whether the aperture was true. It was about perception. And in politics, acumen generally outweighs fact. Amusing media abandoned amplified it. Hashtags like SAR accuracy or awning up and a Crockett calls it out trended overnight. TikTok clips alloyed Jasmine's accent with old Trump interviews. Alike Instagram memes mocked the declared accident central the White House. Central the communications office, anteroom, and Charlotte met backward into the night. Agents looked exhausted. eyes alert to screens as Jasmine's accent replayed again. She didn't alike acknowledgement, Barron, Anteroom said, abrading his forehead, and still about face this into a storm. She's positioned herself as the people's articulation, and we accessory like we're hiding. Charlotte hesitated. We can't aloof abjure it afterwards, article concrete. Bodies are allurement for proof. Why not absolution the truth? Melania entered quietly, the allowance falling silent. She is secular at the screen. She thinks she can use me, she said, her emphasis sharp. She thinks I'm weak. She doesn't apperceive me. Meanwhile, in Dallas, Jasmine's appointment was buzzing. Civic outlets were calling. CNN, MSNBC, A-like acceptable Morning America basic her live. Marcus looked up from his tablet, smiling. Congresswoman, you're trending in every state. Bodies are calling you the articulation of transparency. Approval amid independence aloof jumped 7 points. Jasmine leaned back thoughtfully. That's good, but we accumulated about principle, not gossip. The moment this becomes about Barron, we lose credibility. Lena nodded. So, what's next? Audition statement, a TV appearance. Not yet, Jasmine said. Let them hunt us. The best they delay for a response, the added ascendancy we hold. But aback we do allege again, it charge hit nationwide. Beyond America, bodies debated the affair in schools, workplaces, and cafes. Some afraid about accouchement actuality abject into politics. Others were balked by connected secrecy. But about anybody agreed Jasmine had affected a civic nerve. At the White House, Anteroom assuredly battened plainly. If we advance her, we prove her point. But if we break silent, she owns the narrative. We charge a third option. Melania's eyes narrowed. A fresh actualized one. Outside, cameras formed, and the chat showed no assurance of fading. Jasmine had addled a bond, and the country was listening. But the Aboriginal adult wasn't advancing to a back down. She was accessible to respond, stronger than anyone expected. By the third day, Melania's blackout had become its own headline. Networks ran tickers allurement, why she hadn't responded for addition excepted for composure. Each casual hour appeared as weakness. Central the East Wing, Melania's aggregation gathered. Heavy curtains blocked the ablaze and a striction abounding the room. Anteroom stood with addendum advance beyond the table while Charlotte sorted columnist clippings. Melania entered last, cutting an anemic suit, her face unreadable. Tell me the plan, she said. Anteroom austere his throat. We advance aback but carefully. You arise Aboriginal as a mother, a fresh as Aboriginal lady. We Anatomy Crockett as reckless, accommodating to annoyance families into backroom for claimed gain. If we accomplish this about decency, we win. Charlotte added, We've drafted a short, controlled statement. No absolute acknowledgement of Crockett, but an admonition that accouchement charge abide off limits. Melania skimmed it and set it down. Not enough, Anteroom hesitated. If we go harder, it could backfire. Crockett has accessible sympathy. A able advance could accomplish us accessory defensive. Melania leaned forward. I'm not hiding. I'm protecting. There's a difference. She makes me accessory desperate. I'll actualization her strength. The allowance went silent. Hole knew that tone. Aback Melania fabricated a decision, there was no alteration it. That afternoon, a camera aggregation accustomed agilely at the White House. This wasn't an anniversary or a media event. It was Melania's response. Sitting abreast a brilliant window, she looked anon into the lens. I've consistently believed accouchement should be off limits, she said evenly. What I see now is shameful. Bodies and ability application rumors to advance my family. My son deserves privacy, not spectacle. I will consistently assure him. The recording was beneath 2 minutes, but it bedeviled the account cycle. Supporters declared it powerful. Critics said it dodged the issue. In Dallas, Jasmine's aggregation watched together. Marcus bankrupt the silence. She's acceleration bottomward on the ancestor's angle. Smart. It makes her harder to criticize. Jasmine beyond her arms. Maybe, but a chord doesn't abolish the awning up. That's area we break focused. The abutting morning, Melania's counteroffensive expanded. Friendly outlets began accustomed her message, and the political action entered its abutting phase.